Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Everyone watching is going to be in for a real treat. We have four incredibly talented artists with us to talk about their artwork and art life and everything involved with being an artist to a degree. Here at the Silk Purse Arts Center with the current exhibition, The Color Connection, which features, as we said, four incredible artists who are all here with us this evening, Deb Chaney, Alini Garcia, Tamara Grand, and Roman Rozumnyj. My name is Stephen Snyder. I am the Gallery and Communications Coordinator for the West Vancouver Community Arts Council. We are a not-for-profit organization that operates all of the fantastic arts and culture programming that comes out of here at the Silk Purse in West Vancouver and other locations around West Van. And we are so thrilled to be able to present this fantastic exhibit where you can see some of it behind me, and I think a few other examples behind some of our artists here this evening. You're going to have a great time seeing this artwork, hearing these artists, and hopefully it will entice you to come on in and check out this exhibition. Like we said, it is at the Silk Purse Arts Center, which is in West Vancouver, right along the Ambleside waterfront, which is on the unceded and traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples. Here on the North Shore, in West Van in particular, that is the Squamish Nation and the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. And we're incredibly grateful to our host nations for their stewardship of these lands since time immemorial, and honored and grateful to be able to engage in all manner of arts and culture activities with and alongside our host nations. And we are excited to be sharing this with all of you watching here live and who might be watching in the future. So as we said, the Color Connection is on here at the Silk Purse until March the 3rd. So if you're watching this between now and then, come on down to the gallery and check it out. If you have any questions or comments throughout this conversation with our artists, drop those into the chat and we'll get through that throughout this talk. Now, let's get to what you're here for, is to hear from these artists. They're all going to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about them and who they are. Let's start with Deb. Deb, could you please introduce yourself? Deb Chaney.
Yeah, hi, my name is Deb, and I paint abstract, but I think we all do, so we have that in common. And I originally grew up in Vancouver, BC, and then in my 20s, I went on a lot of adventures, and I actually crewed on sailboats, and I crewed to California, and I ended up living there for 10 years. So I lived in California for 10 years, and then I came back, and now I'm living in the Gulf Islands. So I'm creating in a beautiful place surrounded by the forest and near the ocean, and working on a new series. And that's what I'm sharing in this show is new pieces in this series that I'm exploring.
Awesome. Thank you, Deb, for telling us a bit about yourself. And we're going to hear a bit more as we see more of each artist's work. Next, Alini Garcia, could you please tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Alini. I'm born in Brazil and I'm living in Vancouver for 2 years now. I'm on this artistic journey for 2 years also. So since we moved from Brazil, I started painting and even more discovering my passion for abstract art. As Deb said, it's our passion, I think. We are always all sharing the same one. On my piece, I like to bring emotion and a lot of colors. That is also in common, something that we have, a lot of colors. And I think that my goal is to connect with the viewers and encourage them to explore their emotions through my pieces. And also, as an immigrant in Canada, I try to break down cultural and language barriers that may arrive in the journey. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, thank you so much. Next up, Tamara Grand. Could you please tell us all a little bit about you?
Absolutely. I just want to start by saying thank you to West Van Arts Council and the Silk Purse Gallery for inviting all four of us to come together for this this exhibition. We did not know each other before we met on Zoom after we got your email, and it's been really a fun time to see each other's art and to work together on a collaborative painting. So thank you very much, and I can't wait to see you all in person on Saturday and see the exhibition. My name's Tamara. I live in Port Moody, British Columbia. That's down the end of the inlet, so kind of away from Vancouver. And I like to say right up front that I have absolutely no formal training in the arts. And I like to tell people that because I was trained as a scientist. I spent the first half of my career as a research scientist and didn't feel a calling to paint until I was in my early 50s. And if I can do that, you can do that too. I love color. You'll be able to tell that from the paintings that I have in this exhibition. And I like to say that I'm unapologetic in my use of it. So you'll see lots of bright colors and interesting organic abstract shapes in my work. Most of what I've learned, I learned online and through workshops I took with other artists during the lockdown. So 2020 was a year where most of us spent a lot of time at home and on our screens. And I decided that since I couldn't get out in the real world, that I was going to just really dig deep, dive in, and become an artist and really, really explore the things that excited me about art and learn as much as I could. So that's a bit about me. I'm happy to share more later and answer some questions about the work.
Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, Roman Rozumnyj, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, everybody. My name is Roman Rozumnyj, and I am a labeled West Coast modern artist. I was raised in the prairies, and I moved out here in 1992. And from the second landing here, just absolutely fell in love with it. And in my world, life is art and art is life. And so therefore it reflects everything in my work as to my surroundings. And absolutely enamored by the West Coast, the vibe, the complete amazing atmosphere that comes and evolves every day. It's something different. I've been painting now for 40 years and sort of moved my world to the Stripes series. And even beyond that, it's evolved into this Beach Stripe series, which I think pulls in the big West Coast flavor. I also am a professional interior designer and have been so for many years. I've done work globally. And recently, in the last 3 years, I was pulled into the movie industry and am a set decorator and now have 21 shows under my belt. So it's been quite a whirlwind. And fortunately, many of my pieces have been showcased in several movies, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So that's it in a nutshell.
Oh, that's excellent. Thank you so much. And thank all of you for sharing. Great to get these little tidbits. And it sounds like being creative has been a part of all of your lives, even though some of you might have started your artistic career a little bit later or had other things going on before delving into it. Sounds like it's always been important to you to make things, to be at least surrounded by artwork. So that's pretty cool. A great connection between all of you. Hence, some things you've also said is color is one of the a connection that all of you really embrace different shades and tones and vibrancies. And we're going to see a little bit of that now. We've got a little tour coming up of the exhibit, just very quick, just to give you a little taste of what you can expect while when you come into the gallery. I'm just going to pull that up. Now this isn't going to give you the best, most in-depth kind of look at the show, but it will definitely give you a nice taste of what you can expect. So this is just kind of the view as you come into the Silk Purse from our waterfront entrance. We have a couple different entrances. So here's just kind of the general layout of the exhibit. And then over here on the west side, we start with some of Deb Chaney's fantastic pieces. All of these really great textures and layers coming through, being hidden, great push and pull. And we move on to some of Tamara Grand's pieces. You can really see that, what was you said, unapologetic love of color. And then alluded to, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later, is this really great collaborative piece that all four of you created. Yeah, and then we have some more of Tamara's fantastic work, which also has so many layers and really great use of transparencies and a lot of sort of a 3D effect, even though it's fairly flat. And then we get to have some of Roman's great work. You know, which in a lot of the pieces, as you can see, this fantastic twinkling and sparkling, which I'm sure we'll hear more about later. Yeah, and a lot of interesting materials in a lot of the pieces have a lot of sort of mixed media as we're looking at Romans. That kind of what triggered it because he's, you know, all these great elements to make it up. But a lot of you are using multiple media to achieve all of these fantastic and depth and emotion-filled work. Yeah, and then we move on to Alini Garcia's pieces here. You know, which have such vibrancy and kinetic quality to them. Yeah, it's been a fantastic experience already, even though the exhibit's only been open 2 days. But just getting people's reaction because the work is, as you're all able to see right here in these quick little views around the canvases and panels and other substrates, that there's a real response that these pieces provoke. I think you're all really able to hit people in the heart. There's instantly a reaction when people come in, their eyes go wide, and they have to sort of really delve deep and move in and take everything in. You know, and here's just another quick go around of the general layout of the show. So that's it. That's just a quick little glimpse of the show. You really got to come in and see everything in person to all of the detail and layers and scope of these fantastic images. So yeah, thank you all for sharing. It was a lot of fun putting the show up, I have to say. It was a real puzzle. But I think it turned out pretty great, and everyone so far has had a really fun time with it. So now we got to have sort of an overview of the exhibit and got to hear a little bit from our artists about who they are and a little bit about their background. We're going to hear a bit more about sort of behind the scenes or their inspirations and process. They've each selected one work of art that's currently on display to sort of talk about and explain sort of their artistic practice and their statement and where they're coming from with the work that's here. So we're going to pull up Roman's piece. And you have chosen a really great painting here. I believe it's called Beach Stripes 42. Could you please tell us about this piece?
Yes, awesome. So basically, my piece is it's a play on color theory, gradation techniques, and patterned optical manipulation. Wow. Okay, so maybe it's just, life seems perfect from a distance, but the closer you get, the more you see subtle options and opportunities that come your way. So I tried to reflect it in this painting by, it's basically a pour technique. And I hang some pieces vertically, some horizontally, but the piece is created horizontally. So there's a beginning, there's the journey, and then there's the end. And basically, these are techniques where there has to be a certain pressure of the paint that actually free falls, and gravity takes over and creates its own path to the bottom of the canvas and then drips off. So there's only so much control you have over it. There's no masking involved or any kind of added surfaces to the canvas. It's strictly gravity. And so it's taken me about 2 years to develop this technique to create these perfect, imperfect lines. And in my mind, that is a reflection of life. So the closer you get to the piece, the more you see it's got its own world. There's all these little shifts and turns and bumps and grinds, and that's life, right? There's only so much we can control in life, and the rest is either destiny or what we try to create. So I let that do its thing. I let it cure, and then I put resin into it, and then I also, to give it a sparkle and a dance, along with the optics that if you shift your eyes to the piece up and down or sideways, the piece actually dances. But I incorporate diamond dust into the painting so that it gets another layer, just like life. We all have layers. And at the end of it, it cures and becomes a living piece. And sometimes I've been playing with nail polish to create a third level, which is kind of fun. So it's pulling in that West Coast vibe and creating a sort of timeless, light piece that's easy to observe and get immersed into. So that, in a nutshell, is how I create these pieces. And, we all have a destiny, we have a beginning, we have a journey, and we have an end. So Stripes, number 42.
And that's the answer to life, the universe, and everything, is it not?
It is. I even am wearing striped socks right now.
42.
42 socks. Yes, I'm very warm.
Oh,
I feel like
wonderful.
you guys are you guys referencing like a book or a movie?
Yes.
I thought you were. What's
The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
That's what I was
42 is
thinking.
the answer to life, the universe, and everything.
Okay, just so everyone's included in this beautiful.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, Roman. I'm glad you mentioned, you talked how your technique about pouring and using gravity and sort of the imperfections in the line work, because that's something that I think when you have something sort of seemingly so structured, and using such graphic geometric shapes, you might expect it to be incredibly sleek and clean. But like you said, the lines aren't always perfect. And even on the edge of the painting, you've left the drips so that people
Correct.
can sort of see the physical paint dripping off the edge of the piece.
Exactly. And then the resin process, there's even another layer of drip of the resin pouring off the canvas, and then the pour of the paint on the top of the canvas. So when people are looking at the piece, check out the spines of the canvas, because it's got its own world and its own life. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Can I ask you a question about I noticed you use a variety of substrates that aren't canvases or boards. Like you had a snowboard, you had a picture frame, and so those are not perfectly flat or plumb. So how does that make the process a little more challenging to get the stripes to move in?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. But again, you can only control the technique to a certain point, and then you just have to feel it and be confident with how you're pouring and let it do its thing. And if it strays, it strays, as we do. So it's there's only a certain amount of control you can have, and that's to me the beauty of it. And so yes, I've incorporated into not just canvas and panels, but now I'm creating a series of skis, snowboards, wakeboards, surfboards, skateboards, and doing series of those as well. And I'm just in the process of building that, and it's quite something. It's kind of fun to watch and evolve into something else. But yeah, I mean, if you have a bike or some kind of sporting equipment, you don't want paint on it, then keep it away from my studio.
Very cool. Can't wait to see that next series. Next, let's hear from Tamara. Tamara, could you tell us about this great piece, Dawn Chorus?
Absolutely. So I'm a process painter, and I consider myself to be more intuitive than planned. So I don't pre-plan what's going to happen once I start painting. I like to kind of make marks and then respond. And one of the things I've really been working on the last year or two is trying to create all these layers of translucency and depth that you spoke about a few minutes ago, Stephen. And the idea being that you can see something across the room, but then when you get closer to the painting or look at it on an angle, you see something very different. So it looks very flat from a distance, and when you get up close, it's not. It looks like there are layers and layers and layers. And what those layers are the history of me making the painting. And so I love this piece. I wanted to share because it was a bit of a watershed piece for me on a number of levels. The first being, was the largest painting I'd ever created. It's 36 by 40 inches, which doesn't sound large, but when you've been working mainly 12 by 12, 16 by 16, 20 by 20, it's a lot more real estate to cover and a lot more paint. Also because I chose a color that I was really challenged by. I don't know about you guys, but red, I find red to be an extremely challenging color to work with. It's very powerful. It can be very overpowering. It's very, very energetic, and it doesn't lend as well to the techniques of addition and subtraction that I use as other colors. So I felt like a challenge. Let's go big. Let's go with a color that's hard to handle. And let's see if we can still manage to get what I'm thinking in my head in terms of the effects I'm looking for on the canvas or on the birch panel at this point. And I was really, really pleased with how this painting worked. There's a lot of color in here that you wouldn't think goes with red. So when people look at color wheels or think about color theory, red and green usually evoke things like Christmas. We tend not to want to pair those together as artists. So I was challenging myself to use different colors in here. There's some pinks, there's some fluorescence that you can't quite see on the screen, but you'll be able to see when you come into the gallery and look up close. And the reason I titled this painting Dawn Chorus is because it reminded me at the end of the experience of being in forest first thing in the morning when the birds start singing. So Dawn Chorus is that time around sunrise or just before sunrise where in certain parts of the world, certain times of the year, all the songbirds erupt into song pretty much at the same time. And you can kind of hear their voices coming out of the forest, but you don't really see them. And so that's what this piece reminded me of, specifically a morning in Australia about 25 years ago, where I woke up in a forest and we could hear all of these birds around us, but we couldn't see them, or we would just get little glimpses and glimmers of the colors of them as they came out from the trees. So that's what that painting is. That's what this painting is about for me.
And you said watershed painting. I'm not familiar with that term.
The term, I guess, it's not the word I'm looking for. The idea that it created a bit of a sea change in the way I was working. So I had been working towards trying to get these effects, and this was the painting where I finally felt like what I was seeing in my mind's eye and what I was working towards kind of came out. So then a lot of work followed this piece very, very rapidly. I had a very prolific period in the studio after this.
And do you prefer resin or varnishing, or do you like leaving your pieces flat?
I'm like you. The more gloss, the better. And I'm a big lover of gloss medium. I use gloss medium in between layers as I'm painting to preserve what's below, but also to help create that sense of forward to backward movement. And I almost always use a high gloss or a gloss varnish at the very end. Mm. Not everyone's favorite, but we follow our hearts on these things, right?
Totally. Yes, no, there's a real jewel type quality to your pieces, Tamara, not only with the colors, but then when you add that gloss to it, it really just shines, much like Roman's pieces. The transparencies are very interesting. The fact that all of your work is kind of focused on these sort of organic shapes that have a bit of they're all sort of slightly rounded squares on these different transparent layers. Where does that come from?
Well, I could answer this in two ways. The answer I've sometimes given is that was just the shape that my hand wanted to make when you put a 2-inch brush in it. So before I started painting like this, I was using catalyst wedges and I was using scrapers, and I wasn't very comfortable with brushes. And somebody, one of my art teachers, challenged me to start playing with brushes and seeing how I might feel. And as soon as I had a brush in my hand, it seemed to want to make these sort of, I called them jelly beans for a while. They started to look like jelly beans at the beginning, or, blobs. Some people call them blobs. That's fine. I don't really mind that. But I really work on the outline and then the filling in. And you'll notice when you look at some of this work up close that you can see a bit of that outline. And often there's a raised edge to it. So I've allowed the paint, when I press into the brush, I've allowed the paint to create a ridge around the shape. And this process of addition and subtraction, I come back in after it's partially dried, and I will scrub out some of the inner part of each of those shapes as I go. And that's what lets the interesting, magical little bits behind show through. So I often don't know what's going to happen when I start scrubbing on a shape, because I can't remember what's underneath it until it starts to emerge. I guess the other answer is I'm a biologist. So that's my training, right? I studied as a biologist. I worked as a biologist for many years, and I'm absolutely in love with the ocean and tide pools and the beach. And so a lot of times those kinds of shapes will come out as well.
Wonderful. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Tamara. Next, Alini, we have this great piece, Citrus Sky. Could you tell us about it?
Sure. So thank you for having me this opportunity to talk about this piece that I really like. So this painting became part of the Climate Art Collection. This collection is a global collection that showcases artworks from artists around the world that visualize the impacts of climate change. I painted this painting in July last year during that wildfire that when New York, the sky of New York sky became orange. So this is the name, Citrus Sky, because of this tragic event. When I'm saying, I feel that sounds tragic, like why would you register that in a canvas, you know? But for me, it looks more like a reminder or an opportunity to register, and don't let us forget that our actions, even the smallest one, they have an impact in our real world. So that was my challenge when I was trying to paint, and what I was painting that on that week that the wildfire happened, and I feel that I could translate that. You can't see exactly, but there is some collage. I love to include collage on my work, on New York buildings, New York signs, so you can see that reference. And when I pick up the colors, I was trying to bring like the blue more natural. You can see very little green because here the message was like no green anymore and little blue. And after I finished the painting, when I was looking at it, I could see, if you can see in person, the piece, you can see the blue like almost fighting with the orange. So that was not my plan, but that became what it is. So I felt the blue that has this space, but is still trying to find his own space again, let's suppose. And the orange is not about the blue, the sky that used to be blue, but on that time was orange, but it's more like a message of urgence or a message that we need to pay attention, like an alert for us that every single action, as I said, that we take on our lives that impacts what we are living today. So as I said at the beginning, I feel that this piece is more a reminder that you can make the difference. And I feel that art is also that you can make the difference. So if you have the chance to remind what we are doing and take a different direction, that is the plan here. So that is what I think about this piece. And yeah, if you can see that in person, you can see all the details and will make more sense for you, I'm sure. And that was my plan here, trying to bring those emotions and also leave space for the viewers to understand by themselves that message. That's it about this piece. Yeah, every single piece that I try to create, I try to incorporate experiences that I'm living on that moment. So you can see a lot of emotion, a lot of colors, and almost, I would say always, I try to put the name of the piece, some like cue for the person to understand what I'm trying to say. So if you go deep and spend the time trying to understand the name and the piece itself, at the end, maybe, I hope so, you can see that sense behind both name and piece. And that's
Curious if you've ever dabbled in street art, because I see a hint of graffiti in your work.
Yeah, I like to bring a lot of street art. Yes, when I start painting, I start like very basic, like trees and people and trying to make some art. And then when I start seeing like street art, I was like, I don't want to paint real thing. I want to paint what I'm feeling. So I feel that street elements can help me with that. I really love when I see an art that is like very realistic or something. But for me, I feel that, of course, I need to train a lot to be on a level that is beautiful. But for me, I feel more I space to bring my own emotions, and works like a therapy for me. So I feel comfortable when I enjoy the process, and I feel very happy when I'm painting abstract with thinking about the urban side of it. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, thank you for bringing up
Yeah.
the sort of street art element, because yeah, that's evident, but it's also, I think, lends to you have a very distinct and sort of realized visual language amongst your work. There's a lot of repeating motifs and colors and shapes
Yeah.
and uses of materials. is that something that sort of just happens naturally, or is that really planned out to sort of have all these elements present and somehow tie them together?
Yeah, when I start painting abstract, I saw that I like it to include same elements every time. So, for example, the dots or the lines, and I bought a notebook, a scratchbook, and I registered every single page was, okay, I like to do dots, so I will page just with dots, because sometimes when you are painting, at least me, I forgot, like I finish like, oh, I'm missing the lines and the dots and everything. So I go back to my book and I see, okay, what I can include here that will make this piece look more like me. So when I have my statement as an artist, I have there that I want to break barriers. So as I said at the beginning, as an immigrant, sometimes language is a barrier for me, or cultural barriers. So on art, I have my own language, and you can see that even if I'm not talking. So that is something that I like, and all of you have it, and I found that amazing. So I can see when it's a piece, Deb's piece, Tamara's piece, Roman piece. When I see this, I know it's yours, and that's just amazing. So you don't need to learn English or Portuguese to communicate. So you just need to feel that.
Oh,
yeah.
Agree 100%. Yeah. All four of you have, such a distinct voice. And I think really connects with viewers on different levels. Thanks for sharing, Alini.
Oh, thank you.
Next, nope, that's not the right one. Deb, could you please tell us about this piece, Know Your Truth and Live It?
Absolutely. Yeah, so this piece and all the paintings that are displayed in the gallery with my fellow artists, these are all part of a series that I've been exploring for quite a few years now. I think I'm in my third year. And this series is called the Drishti series. So Drishti is a Sanskrit word, and it means focus. And if any of you practice yoga, you may take a yoga class and you'll be in a pose and you'll be wobbling, and the teacher might say, find a drishti, so a spot on the wall that you can focus on, and it'll help you get your balance. And so that's the story behind the name of the series. And it's chosen because of our focus has, in my opinion, so much effect on our well-being. So this series is really about visually communicating how did I heal, how did I get well, and my journey to emotional and mental well-being. And with each painting in this round, I feel like I'm still exploring, and it's still continuing. So I feel like with the paintings in the gallery right now, you're getting a snapshot of what I learned for painting these paintings for this show. And I always start with the colors. So if you look at the bottom right-hand corner of this painting, you can see it's like kind of a mix of green and blue. It's mainly turquoise. And that color holds a frequency, and it relates to a part of our energy body, a chakra. And it's in our area, in our throat chakra, in this energy body. And it's about being able to speak our truth. And so when I started painting, the whole canvas is this color, and I'm thinking about this energy center and what is well-being for me with that color. So this is how I start the paintings. And with this series, I did something I've never done. So I actually used house paint. I've never tried house paint, but I thought, it's really good to keep trying different medias. So the bottom layer for all these paintings is actually house paint, where I went to the hardware store and I got the color mixed to represent that first color. So in this case, it's turquoise. And then the second step, so there's three. And then the second step here is this play of sacred geometry. And you'll notice it in all of these Drishti paintings. And really, the sacred geometry is incredibly symbolic. And it comes from really looking at myself and my journey, and really trying to figure out what were some of the core things that helped me heal and become well and gain my mental well-being. And one of those things was connection. And we can have connection in so many ways. We can have connection to source and divinity. We can be connected to nature. And we can also be connected in community, which we experienced, the four of us in this show, through a collaborative painting. And so there can be all these different ways that we connect. And what I really feel is that connection is such an important part of healing and well-being. And so that's the second layer, is it's sacred geometry. And what I use to visually share this is I do layers of spray paint. I have all these stencils, and then I also come in, and you'll see it when you see the paintings in person, is I'll go in with pencil, and I'll actually be penciling in the marks, and I'll be intentionally making an effort to connect the smaller areas with the larger areas, so there's connection throughout the whole painting. So that's the second part of these drishti paintings. And then the last part is a free-for-all, and that is that we start with these foundations, you know, the affirmation, the color frequency, then we have connection. And then really what healing is, in my opinion, is it is a coming back to authentic self. It's coming back to that alignment with who we really are, which is that connection with our divinity. And it's an incredible experience of freedom. The white paint represents authentic self. And I was really going for flow and freedom and this sense that, okay, we're feeling good and we're connected, and now we can just go, we can live life. And my aim is to capture the frequency of well-being. That's what I'm doing. I'm still working on it. You know, I feel like you're seeing a bit in process. It feels enormously vulnerable, and yet I feel like I'm doing exactly what I need to do with my art, and I'm expressing and I'm exploring what is most important to me.
This is a tough one. That's a tough question, but how do
Yeah.
you know when to stop? I know there's
Mhm.
lots of layers there, but it's like
Yeah.
each artist struggles with that. It's like, when do I know it's finished?
Yeah, that is a great question. And I struggled a lot with this series. And I didn't have the answers with these 7 paintings. Like, it's so interesting because when I'm really clear that the painting's done, I'll varnish. You know, we were talking about varnish earlier with Tamara and yourself. And I didn't varnish any of these, which is unusual. I put on an isolation coat. I don't know if you guys use that product. It's just like a clear gloss coat, because I think for me, what I wanted, and it's so interesting, that sense of like control and desire for a finished product, and then also this fierce desire to explore these concepts and let it go. And I think the mind part of me, like the controller part of me, the you know, conscious egoic self, I wanted a clear final composition. Like when I walked into the gallery and I saw all your paintings, I'm like, ah, they all have clear composition. And I realized, like, this is the part that I wasn't sure about. Um and that's next. So how do I know when I'm done? I don't feel like I'm done. I feel like I'm still in this series. I'm still exploring, and I'm sort of vulnerably sharing where I'm at. And that's my honest answer.
Good answer.
Okay, I'm just telling you the truth.
I like to think the answer to that question is along the lines of the multiverse, in that when at any point I choose to stop for the day, that could be the end of that painting. It could be a finished painting, and everything I paint, because I come back to it the next day, now there's just a new finished painting on top of it. And so, you know, if you share I share work in progress online, and oftentimes I'm taken aback when someone says, "That's done, don't touch it," and you're like, I don't think it's done. But you realize that the viewer is often the one who decides when things are finished, if that makes any sense.
It does, because I've actually had people do studio visits, and they're like, I want that painting. And I'm like, that's cool. It's not done. And they're like, I don't care. It's done for me. And so this is what's so great about hanging out with other artists and curators, is getting that other perspective. Because I don't know about you guys, but I get so involved in a process, and it's like a relationship with this painting that's ongoing. You know, it could go on forever and ever. But one other thing came to me, actually, Roman, in answer to your question, is the painting. I don't know if you guys get this, but the paintings talk to me, and I like this painting. It told me what it would be called. Like the name of this painting is Know Your Truth and Live It. And I love that title, like Know Your Truth and Live It. And to me, there's healing in that, and there's well-being, and that's what this series is about. And so in some ways, when I get that title, that's kind of an indicator that it has done its work. You know, it's not a visual thing. It's more of a spiritual experience for me.
Wow, can't wait for the movie. It's very James Bond. That's very cool.
I'm glad you brought up the title, Deb, because yesterday we had a visitor in who, loved the whole show, and in particular was taken with your work. And then when she stopped and read the titles of each of your pieces, it just gave that extra little oomph for her, that extra little impact. She had to come over and tell her volunteer, I love these pieces, but now reading, what the artist was trying to tell me through them, it spoke to her on a deeper level.
Yeah, I'm getting really emotional. Like, thank you for saying that, because I want to share the healing that I get through creating. And I feel like every person in this room gets something from painting. We all feel better. We process the world. We feel good doing it. And I set this intention is I want these to go in the world and in some way be a gift to someone. And that comes through that title. And it's, yeah, like that really touches me. Oh my goodness, I'm getting chills. I'm tearing up. Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you all for sharing about your individual work and processes and inspiration and practices. But now we're moving on to something a little different, because as we said before, you all collaborated on a piece in this exhibit. So here it is. Whoever wants to jump in, tell us about it. How did it start? How did you all feel creating it? What do you think of the final product?
Why don't we start with whoever started the first layer, and then second layer, third layer, and final layer?
Perfect.
Cool.
Yeah, so I started the first layer and I put in the sacred geometry. You can actually see it. I used spray paint with a stencil. And I also put in the top left-hand corner a layer of turquoise. And I felt like that color was all about the frequency of connection. And I also wrote in it, and I wrote the words, I used like a rubber shaper into thicker paint. I wrote connection and color connection. And I wrote words that were all about us as a group. And I was so excited. Someone asked me like the other day, they were like, oh, was it hard to start? I was like, no, God, starting paintings are easy. The other guys have the harder work. And then I packaged it all up and it went to Tamara. But so that's where the painting started.
Yes. And then it came to me and I had a moment of, oh my gosh, how can I paint over anything that Deb has done? Working on a collaborative project is challenging on many fronts, because you have your own way of working and your own way of starting a piece. And when someone presents you with another start and it's not your way of starting, you have to kind of shelve that and then go into that, what my regular mode of painting, which is call and response. What's here and what can I do to enhance what's already here? And I'm always thinking about variety, contrast in shape and size and color. But your turquoise really spoke to me, Deb, and I had to continue with the turquoise. And I don't know why, I just grabbed the quinacridone nickel azo gold, and those were the only two colors that I added to the piece, with a little black and white.
Oh my God. And this is just for like the art geeks listening, or all of you, if you're art geeks, is apparently golden is discontinuing that color to my chagrin because
Yes.
it's such a great glazing color with the transparency. Just like a side note, technical geek thing. Oh
Okay,
my gosh.
here's your answer. Chroma Acrylics on Granville Island, sorry, no
Mm.
affiliation. They have come up with their own blend of the same color in response to Golden no longer selling it. So I went out and bought probably 3 things of it when I heard that announcement too, because it's one of my favorite colors. But one of the challenges was, and this is always a challenge for me, not to cover everything up. And so I was very cognizant that it was going to Roman next and then to Alini, and I wanted to, add to it and then build on a section of the canvas that you hadn't worked on, but then leave them lots of space to respond to. And I was quite pleased with where I left it. And then I was really excited to see what Roman and Alini were going to do with it.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
Tara. I love what you did. Just amazing. I was just mind blown when I saw that first layer. It's perfect.
So when I got it, I saw controlled chaos, and thank God I'm left-handed. So I was able to go from right to left and not ruin the stuff going on my end. Actually, we were allowed to sort of manipulate it or move it around any way we wanted to, but that was a good story. And so I took that and wanted to create a gradation. And I also, again, with the design background, create continuity and pull colors and create some contrast. And I did 25%, and it wrapped. Again, when you see it live, the spines have its own language as well and its own story. So it sort of pulls over, and we each signed one side of the spine. So whenever everybody's going to check out this piece, have a look at the signatures on each side. And then so I resined and diamond dusted, if that's a word, 25% of the right side of this piece, and sort of let it sort of find its way into infinity without really stepping on any flowers or toes, and then sent it off to the final frontier.
But I just have to comment on your work here, Roman. Like, it's just so on point because it's beautiful contrast and it just works so well with what Tamara and I did. And like, again, when I got to see that third stage, I was just like, wow, like,
Oh,
you never know what's going to happen with the collaboration. And it's just so on point visually,
no, thanks. No, it was, it's all about balance and chroma and color and just everything, right? And that's just part of it. And we all sort of have that, the color theory, the principles of design, all incorporated into artwork, and it really shows. And this piece reflects that perfectly, without impeding or being overwhelming for one of the 25%. It's a great piece. It really is.
It is.
And
Very
then
cool.
came to me. So I just received this piece the day after I came home from Brazil, 2 months there, like after 2 years living abroad. So I was like blocked. I was like, what I'm going to do here? It's just perfect. It's finished. So the people like, no need anything else. But it's a collaborative piece. So I start browsing some magazines just to like start the universe, like saying to the universe, please help me, because we need to finish that piece, and I had like 2 days to finish it. And I'm like, and then I have old magazines that I bought from this place that sell old books. I don't know the name. And I was like, please help me. And I found Mixed Emotion at Work or something like this. It's an article about emotion written by a therapist in the 90s. So the title was that. So I just, that's it. So I got that mixed emotion. I put as a collage. And from there, I just put my headphones and that came up. So a little bit of urban elements, collage that I like. Just my signature to finish it. But honestly, it was perfect when I just received it.
I love your additions to it. I really do. I mean, it pulls the whole piece together. Did we name it?
I mean, it could be the name of the show or group
Yeah, I thought
name.
that
That
was the
would
name
be
of the
Yeah.
show. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
could be mixed emotion or
Yeah, absolutely. You could write that on the back. Yeah, that could work really well too.
because when I start thinking, I will start thinking about me, how I'm feeling, mixed emotion, like a lot of I was bringing a lot of emotion from my trip, visiting my parents and getting home, start working again. But that's not about me. It's about all of us. So our emotions, when Deb started the painting, what she was feeling, or when Tamara get, when Roman get, when what people are going to feel when they see it, it's all about emotion. So it's not just about me. And I just realized that after the painting, like I saw that, yeah, it's not about me, it's about the piece itself. So yeah, that was really, really amazing to be part of this.
I love the little Basquiat king
Yeah.
crown.
Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
it's so good.
It's such a fantastic piece and how it came together. This is a great story, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing. But I think you've all kind of said this, how it has all come together and reflects each of you individually, yet it's also seamless. And I think that comes down to you all, as I can't remember who said it, but just knowing your design principles, right? And knowing composition and balance and all of that. But also this sort of respect, it sounds like you all have for each other and care for each other and what each person has done. And I think that really comes through, that care, as well as the intelligence and natural instincts that you all have as visual artists.
Yes, true. Yeah, because I was the last one, so I can say, because I was trying what I'm doing to not cover other people work, because yeah, it's my last layer. But that was just came up, like we had a great connection as soon as we met each other via Zoom. I wasn't back in Brazil, so that was an amazing conversation. And I was not thinking like I never thought about cover, like that never came up to me. So it was so natural that when I received, I knew where I need to put my piece, and that's it. Yeah, I think it was natural. I think we have this connection, the color connection.
So good.
Definitely. That's great. That was so cool. Thank you all for sharing all of that. It's been a fantastic conversation. And I think connection was the right word. Color, of course, obviously, you're all that seems to be a starting point for all of you, and what different colors mean to you and what you want those to express to the public. But this idea of connection seems to be very important. You really want to get something across to your audience, and I think that works. And also this connection that you've all made. I'm so glad that you all like each other and like each other's work and find inspiration with each other. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Saturday should be fun.
Yeah,
should be.
I'm so excited for Saturday.
I hear there's massive lineups already at the gallery.
Yeah.
Yes,
With
for any of
fans,
you,
right? They are waiting to open.
Yep. For anyone watching this between now and Saturday, February the 10th, we're having a great Meet the Artist reception here at the Silk Purse from 2 to 3:30. So if you're watching this in the next few days, please come on down and see this stunning artwork and meet these four fantastic creatives. I'm sure they'd love to have a chat with you.
Sure.
And if you would like to know more about them, in the description of this video, there are links to their websites, social media, so you can check out a little bit more about them and see what they're up to and follow their every creative move. And please come on down to the Silk Purse to check out the color connection with Deb Chaney, Alini Garcia, Tamara Grand, and Roman Rozumnyj. It's been a fantastic conversation and a joy to sit amongst your artwork.
Thanks so much, Stephen, for hosting this tonight. It was
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah, it was fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, so thanks to our fantastic artists, and thank you to everyone watching. And yeah, come on down, check out the show. It's on until March the 3rd. And hopefully we will see you then. Take care.
Okay.
There.
Bye.
Bye.